Hello and welcome to our monthly live sleep chat. I am Mar DiCarlo. I am the founder of the International Parenting and Health Institute, and I'm joined by Soda Kushkowski, who is our integrative adult sleep coach certification instructor, as well as the founder of Start with Sleep. And for today's monthly live sleep chat, we're going to talk about simple, practical, and effective ways to manage stress in your daily life so that you can have better sleep. Stress is one of those common day to day terms we hear all the time. It's everywhere. And many of us probably have grown tired of hearing that word, and many of us have gotten used to this term. I'm stressed. How often do we hear that or you feel that? So today we're going to raise a little bit more awareness about why this plays such an integral part of your overall health, but in particular sleep, how those tie in, and just some factors that you may have not considered before that can be extremely helpful to support you in your day-to-day process. So Soda, let's start. How about sharing with us your overall thoughts of what's happening with stress right now and just the general population?
Well, I think the last couple of years has been a testament to, our mental health and the way that we manage our stress. I think when it comes to talking about stress, people don't realize there's good and bad stress, right? So we have like stress, like you feel anxious that you're about to go like on a roller coaster ride, you're going to go like on a new adventure. That's like a good stress. It's that bad stress and the fact that we feed into stress, which in turn can cause us to have anxiety, because stress is based on what are things that are happening in our life, real life events, right? But when it becomes chronic, right, when we're suffering from it, multiple times a week for 6 months, or more, then it can lead into anxiety, where individuals start to have ruminating thoughts about what are all the things that can happen, and they start playing things over in their mind. And this is where we get into those issues related with stress that can cause that vicious cycle, right? Because when we don't get enough sleep, it can cause our body to feel stressed because we're not able to manage it as well, right? But when we don't manage our stress, it in turn can cause a lot of those sleep issues. So I think it's that we've let it get away from us and not realizing that it's something that we need to manage continuously, because we're always going to be triggered and things are always going to be happening. I mean, it's like what we talk about with maternity and child sleep, right? When little ones first have sleep challenges, it's because they're trying to sit up or they're trying to crawl. As adults, we go through transitions as well, right? We change jobs, we break off relationships, you get a divorce, you start a new job, you move to a new home. All of these things can trigger us in different ways, and there's different types of stress. There's physical, there's mental, there's emotional, and we need to identify what is it that we need. I think that's why the conversation has really turned to ideas of self-care. And it's not that, we do all need to slow down, but it's all about that self-awareness. I think that is the most important when it comes to managing our stress.
And that's a really great point that leads into one of our main talking points of evaluating stress. It's interesting because often, and this actually most recently, as you know, happened even within our course with one of the case studies that came forward from one of our participants, in where stress becomes such a normal part of your life. It's such a conditioned program part of your life that you don't distinguish the difference between feeling stressed and what it feels like to be healthy. And so it's not uncommon where I will have people say to me, "Oh, I'm not that tired. I'm having sleep issues, but I don't have any tiredness in the day. And yeah, I'm stressed, but nothing that I can't handle." But when you start evaluating, doing a true evaluation and going deeper into it, come to find out that this person has been living with chronic stress for years. They just have gotten themselves into this habit and pattern of dealing with it and feeling like getting to the point where they've conditioned themselves that this is normal. It's to be on this fight or flight and this, hyper state throughout the day is just part of the hustle, part of what it's like. And so they learn to live with that. And often because of that, they just think it's a normal thing. So the self-awareness is a huge part of it. And then leading into our evaluation. So let's talk a little bit more about the evaluation process and what it is that people can really start truly looking at so that they don't deceive themselves, because that's another aspect. It's very easy to deceive yourself. And that's also one of the reasons I always encourage people to have someone else, give you, their feedback, support you, because as much as we can help ourselves, it does help when someone else can look at how we're behaving and what our programs are from an outsider's perspective.
I know it's only when we, and like a third of the population is experiencing like burnout, right? Oftentimes it's like you said, you don't even realize that you are feeling stress. It's, are you taking the time to think to yourself, you know what, do I really have the ability to relax? A lot of the reasons why, there's more products and there's more technology and more education accessible than there ever has been, but the sleep issue has grown larger because we automatically associate like, oh, if I want to relax, then, lavender anything is going to be the solution. And we often know that that's not the case, right? Like if you have an environment that's not conducive to sleep, right, that is going to hinder things. So it's about setting yourself up in the right way, I think is the most important.
Yes, environment, people around you. What are the things that you're listening to, viewing? Because even though you may think, oh, the news is not affecting me, to some extent it does. You may not see that on a superficial level, but it does on a subconscious level. The music you're listening to, the foods you're eating, and understanding how you can evaluate yourself in a way where, once again, you're not okay. Here's actually, let me just back up a moment. One of the greatest things that I find, you mentioned this about the ability to rest. When we meet with clients, one of the things that we support our professionals with, part of our program, is to teach them what we call settling in and arriving during their sessions. And once in a while, you'll have a client that has zero experience with a yoga, let's say, class or breathing exercise. Most people these days have heard of it, have tried it, but once in a while you'll have someone who doesn't. And they will come to your session, you'll start a settling in and exercising, settling and arriving exercise. And what will happen is the moment they close their eyes for even a few seconds, they can't handle it. It's like, and so immediately you start to realize, okay, this is their first time. So you back it off a little bit. You'll tell them to keep their eyes halfway closed. That's another story for another topic of discussion. But my point with all of this is that one of the best ways to recognize where you're at with your stress, where you're at with your ability to relax, is to sit in one place, choose a place where you can sit upright in a comfortable setting, whether it's on a meditation cushion or even a sofa chair, and close your eyes and see how long you are able to be with yourself and what happens. And if within a few seconds, I can't handle this, that's leading us to a pretty good indicator that, all right, there's a lot of overwhelming things going on that maybe haven't been processed or managed. But that's a start. That's one of many ways to evaluate. But I wanted to mention that because the moment you said that, it clicked. That is one of the best ways to get,
most people don't realize that they're not able to just be. I always say we spend so much time doing, we don't spend enough time being. And it's like, you were one of the first, when I came on with the IPHI, even as a student, to talk about the idea of daily pauses. And I'm in fast pace. I still am a very fast paced individual, but I understand that rest and managing my stress are just as important tools in order for my success. And I think you've always been such an advocate of making sure that you're taking that time with your set. It doesn't have to be about counting or meditation or listening to things. It's just reconnecting with your breath, because that mind body, that mental physical connection is often another reason why individuals aren't able to go to sleep, right? Their body's exhausted, but their mind won't shut off. Their mind is ready, they just can't even keep their eyes open for one more second, but physically their body is just holding on to everything that they've triggered throughout the day. And it's a matter of taking care of everything in order to get to a place where when we hit that pillow with our head, right, that we're able to heed the benefits that come along with it.
Yes. And that's a great point that you made in terms of understanding your traits and how you function, and realizing that you don't necessarily have to change the core of who you are because you're a go-getter and you are very passionate. However, you understand that by supplementing your daily life with these pauses, with these moments, that's going to support you and support everything that you do and make it all the much better. And I feel the same exact way because I'm an East Coaster like you, although I'm in California now, and I have a lot of drive and a lot of passion. And it's just a part of who I am. Even if I try to suppress, if I try to hold down my fire, it's hard. And it's just, I have this connection with my drive that it feels very unstoppable. However, because of that, I'm very, as you said, adamant that I every day am taking that time to just slow down, to settle in. It's an integral part of the balance of it all, right? The management of it all. Let's talk a little bit about the correlation between sleep and stress. Most people understand that yes, stress leads to inhibited sleep over time and or even directly overnight. But maybe people don't understand scientifically or they don't understand what really happens. So can you talk to us a little bit about that and any major points you want to make there?
Well, I think to keep it in its simplest form, like I had mentioned about stress, cortisol levels should be low when we go to sleep at night, right? And they should be elevated in the morning. That's kind of like that ebb and flow, how we're able to kind of manage our energy levels and our ability to sleep at night. But oftentimes sleep will be disrupted because we have elevated cortisol levels. So as sleep coaches, we help our clients manage their stress by looking at those lifestyle and behavioral choices. I mean, something as simple as hydration, right? When we drink enough water, it flushes out excess cortisol level. If we're limiting our caffeine intake, right, that changes the way that our body is able to manage stress as well. So there's little things that we do throughout the day that have a big impact on our ability to manage that stress. I mean, that breath work and all of that goes into it, but it's all of those factors around us that have such an impact as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even so much as a thought can just overtake someone and immediately bring up certain emotions and drive that person into this very stressful state. Just one passing thought can do all of that. And therefore, having these tools available to us so that we understand, all right, when these things happen, what we can do. And so that actually leads us right into breathing and breathing exercises. So, why is breathing and breathing exercises so effective when it comes to supporting stress prevention, stress reduction, and then just overall leading to better sleep?
Well, I think it's first and foremost is that mind body connection, and then the way we breathe during the day. People don't even realize if we are being conscious of our breath, it changes our posture, right? So there's postural stress that can happen, that physical stress as well. So we're sitting up straighter, our shoulders are wider, we're getting in better breath. The way we breathe during the day also helps us to breathe well at night and make sure that we're getting enough oxygen to our brain and we're getting that good quality sleep that we need. So, I mean, you're better someone to speak to breath work. I know you teach a number of classes and work with individuals in this space, but when it comes to like medical sleep disorders, as we get older, our cheekbones are a lot narrower than they used to be. If you've ever had braces, if you have an overbite, our jaws tend to get smaller as we get older, which closes up the airway. So breath work is more important. They say breath work is everything. Mark, breath work
Yes.
is everything.
And for those of you that are not aware, there's a numerous amount of scientific studies, a lot of medical research that has been done where they have taken people under heightened levels of stress and they have begun to apply certain breathing exercises. And you see, as they're scanning, the immediate change starts to shift in their body. It is absolutely incredible. So if you're not familiar with that, we encourage you, everything that we're talking about, we encourage you to research because it's all out there. But there is so much research being done that is phenomenal and shows that. And I actually want to mention something along the lines of what you were saying with posture. Being aware of yourself in all regards, mentally, what you're thinking, how you're eating, how you're hydrating, exercising, all of that, and your posture. So many studies have been done on doing just little shifts with your posture and how immediately that starts to change things. Most of us these days, if you think about it, a lot of us are like this already, right? We're on the phone, we're looking down. Many of us have computers, like right now, my computer is lifted and my chair is a little bit lifted. So I kind of have it more ergonomically adjusted to my posture. But if you don't, there are people that are hunched over. Okay. And even in their car, a lot of people in the car are hunched over, maybe they're driving with more stress. So most times the activities that we're doing have already a posture that is limiting our breathing already you're caving in, already your chest is tightened, already your chin is down, you're closing your throat. So that's also part of what makes breathing exercises phenomenal. It's not just the fact that in that moment we're tuning in, but we're also training our posture to understand what it feels like to be open, to take in that air. And so something you can start doing is evaluating how are you holding your posture on a day-to-day basis through your activities. And it's not to say don't ever be on your phone or don't be on your computer, but start to notice and start to make those shifts. So if you're like constantly going down, well, look up a little or don't be on the phone as much, but start to make those changes, because the moment you become aware of how you're physically holding yourself, it makes a huge difference. They even have studies where people will be feeling a certain kind of emotion and they'll force a smile. They'll just force that smile, even if they don't feel like it. Already they start to have chemical changes within their system. It is phenomenal. So there's a lot of that science too. It's pretty incredible.
I think what you had mentioned too. I mean, obviously, like when we breathe, it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, so that relaxation response. But I think what most people don't realize is while we're triggered by a number of different things, you could be driving in traffic and someone cuts you off. Like there's a number of ways that we could be triggered. The way that stress works, we often create an anxiety around something or trigger ourselves before that event has happened. I like to use the example, if you've ever been driving into work and you think about having an interaction with someone that maybe your personalities don't necessarily mesh well, and we start to have a physical response to that. And we hold our stress in our forehead. We hold it in our jaw, in our neck, in our shoulders. So when we're taking those daily pauses, that's that mind-body connection that I'm talking about. As we're breathing, we're physically letting go because we're clenching all of those different parts of our body. So breath work helps us to physically release that stress, because if not, we're triggered all day long and we just constantly hold it. I mean, I even at one time, I used to drive, I was in medical sales for a long period of time. And being in this position, my neurologist, I had bruises that had developed on the back of my neck because I was constantly in this state, right? Because I'm always looking for accidents and driving in this position. And it was causing a physical reaction in my body, which led to migraines, which led to a number of other different issues. We don't realize the physical ramifications of stress on our body if we're not managing it as well. So it's not just about mentally clearing ourselves and relaxing. It's that physical response that can also create a lot of issues.
Yes, it's a connection. They both coexist. One influences the other at all times. I also like using the rubber band analogy. For me, that always feels very resonant, because what I share with Soda and many others, it's like if you take a rubber band and you're pulling it, the more you pull it without releasing it, the more tension you're building. And the more tension you're building, by the time you let go, it's going to snap harder. So if you take a rubber band and you put a little bit of tension, but you release it, then when you pull it again, it's not going to be so intense, right? It's kind of like but the further you go throughout the day and you continuously keep pulling that rubber band, by the time the nighttime comes, it's like, boom, it comes right at you. So it's
that's a great example, because I mean, that's how most people operate. They don't stop until they hit that wall. It's when everything comes falling down on you because you've managed nothing, right? You're just adding, and we can only carry so much, right? We need to be able to lighten the load by taking care of ourselves.
Exactly. That's a great point. Lighting, I like that term too, lighting the load. All right. The role of nutrition and hydration. You talked a little bit about the hydration. That's a big one. Most people don't realize, and actually statistically, most people are dehydrated. They don't realize it, right?
Yeah, and it's like even if you're like 1% dehydrated, it reduces cognitive function, I think by 5% or something like that. So I mean, like being dehydrated, it affects our concentration, it affects our mood. But I mean, more often than not, that cortisol level, not being able to flush that out. And then if we're drinking too many caffeinated products or too many sugary things, right, and not drinking enough water, that causes an imbalance. I mean, we're 60% water, our brain's 75% water. So it's important to stay hydrated. I mean, it helps, with sleep, with dryness in the nasal passages that can lead to snoring, inflammation in the body, which can lead to restless leg syndrome. So hydration is super important to managing our health as well. It's such a
And then
simple thing.
nutrition and nutrition as well, because like you had mentioned with cortisol these days, with people not realizing how much sugar intake is coming in through many different sources, that's a whole other area that adds to the mix. And again, people just don't realize because they think, oh, it's the big meals. It's actually the small little snacks, the drinks. If you go to your local Starbucks, what's packed into a grande versus event. I mean, it's incredible when you start to look at the ingredients and how things add up. You think, oh, it's just one drink. Oh, it's just one thing. And you start to really account for everything and you realize, wow, I'm really packing in a lot here. And it's absolutely taking a toll on my anxiety, on my ability to relax as well.
Yeah, and an inflammatory, like processed food diet can cause a lot of stress on the body. I recently did a presentation on anxiety and stress, and I have a couple of notes here, just some things that people might not realize. There were some things that I also learned additionally. Things like vitamin C help to reduce cortisol, and we can get it from things like strawberries, kiwi, spinach, which are also, good sources. Spinach is a good source of magnesium. Magnesium is really important, and deficiency can lead to generalized anxiety and depression. And we know that magnesium helps to manage those cortisol levels, helps to regulate melatonin. It helps with temperature regulation. It helps with like 300 biochemical reactions in the body. But our stress response is one of the most important as well. Things like tryptophan, right? That's an amino acid. It helps the body produce serotonin and melatonin, which of course are important to managing both stress and our sleep. And vitamin D, which we know that there's variations in different types of vitamin D, but deficiencies have been linked to a contributing factor for depression and anxiety as well. And when, not eating enough of the right foods can feed into the stress that our body is feeling. I forgot the point I was going to make there. But not sleeping enough is also a contributing factor. If we're sleeping less than 7 hours per night, our body is not absorbing enough of the nutrients as well. So again, it's about that balance.
Absolutely. So how can we keep our good sleep habits? Where do we start in terms of managing this all? We talked a little bit about the evaluation process. So maybe we can tie those in together, talk a little bit about how we can manage this on a day-to-day basis through this evaluation.
Well, I think it's about figuring out what it is that you need. One of the things that I always talk to my clients about is in regards to self-care and bedtime routines is it's not the same thing all the time. Obviously there's some things that we do. We wash our face. We want to make sure that, the lights are low and so forth, but it's all again, back on that reassessment. Like how much stress do you have? What's going on in your life? So how much do you have to manage your stress, right? If you have, what is it they say, that the busier you are, the longer you should meditate, right? Because it's the more stress that we have in our life, the more we kind of have to manage that. So it's like maybe a cup of tea isn't going to do it, or reading a book. Maybe we need to actively take a walk. We need to, talk to a friend or talk to a therapist. Like we need to figure out what is the modality that is going to best serve us depending on what kind of stress that we're having. Because said there's acute stress. We have short-term stress, things that happen all of the time. But when we're experiencing chronic stress that is impairing our ability to sleep at night, then it's time to figure out what are some of the things that we can do, right? First and foremost comes with managing it. So it doesn't matter if it's nutrition, if it's breathing exercise, it's being, active about paying attention to, I feel stress. What are the things that I am going to incorporate? What's the plan that I'm going to incorporate to do that? It might be as simple as taking a journal and writing out your thoughts, right? Or listing triggers and listing what are some of the things that you can do when you're feeling that way, right? Remembering to take daily pauses. If you feel triggered throughout the day, maybe it's time to start planning those kind of like those little periods of time during the day. I tell people set a little alarm on your phone, and when it beeps, or when you know that you go to the bathroom during the day at certain times, or you take certain calls, set up the alarm on your phone. So you're just, you could be in the middle of a conversation and you're taking a deep breath and you're releasing that physical and that mental stress, right? But if we're active about that, it makes such a huge impact on our sleep at night. But you have to take those just moments of time to really be conscious of those choices that you're making.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons people get stuck is because of the story that they have of themselves. When I work with clients, one of the things that I do, as we do with our thorough evaluation, is go really
Mhm.
deep into the process of their thoughts and beliefs about themselves. What is their story? Because one of the things that I hear from clients from time to time is, I'm such a bad sleeper. I'm so type A. And it's almost, in one way, they're saying, I need help. In another way, they're saying, this is who I am. And when we are so stuck on our story, and when we've defined our story, we create this inner resistance anytime something outside of us comes to try to change that story. Because for many years, most of us have been conditioned to think a certain way about who we are and how we function. So part of having successful change is having the courage to say, I'm ready to change my story. I understand, and to face yourself, to not feel bad or guilty about the fact that, yeah, I'm a type A. I've defined myself as a type A. I run around nonstop.
Mhm.
I'm go, go, go. Once you have the ability to admit that to yourself, to welcome that into your space, and then you have the courage to say, all right, I'm going to do something now to honor that, but then supplement myself with the things that support this aspect of myself that has been in overdrive. And so rather than saying I'm a bad sleeper, it's my programming or my conditions, my behaviors have been programmed over the years to sleep in this way. I'm going to begin now to shift that. So beginning to change these labels that I'm a bad sleeper. Now you're not really defining yourself as a bad sleeper so much as the sleep behavior has just been a conditioned, programmed aspect of yourself. Okay, so that's one thing. The other aspect for me, both personally and with my clients, is the adaptability. One of my favorite quotes, I say it so often, is it's not the strongest or the most intelligent that survive, but the ones who are most flexible, adaptable. And what happens is one of the reasons why people struggle so much to make changes and to settle down or relax is they're so set on having to have things a certain way on their day. I had my 1 hour workout. This car got in my way. This person did this. Now I only have a 45-minute workout. I was supposed to bring my kids to such and such play date, but this happened. I got into an argument, so and so. So, life happens to us. And many of us have allowed the external circumstances to take over our inner peace to the point where anything that happens outside of us, we've lost the ability to adapt and say, okay, I got caught up in traffic. I only have a 45-minute workout today. No problem. Okay, I got into an argument with someone, and as a result, that delayed my play date with my child. No problem. So the moment we start allowing life's changes to occur and we meet each moment with a flexibility that it doesn't have to be so hardcore and rigid. Okay, the 1 hour's 45 minutes, the moment you start working that in and you become more flexible, your ability to relax, your ability to welcome in breath, your ability to just go with the flow and not be on this hyper state, this hyper aspect of yourself starts to shift. But once again, it's going to require you to surrender, because if you're not willing to surrender and if you're just going through life's motions and everything outside of you is controlling you, that's another reason why you will be stuck with this stress, even if you do breathing. Because like you had mentioned earlier, Soda, I have a huge amount of experience and training in yoga and a lot of other mindful practices. And it's what was very interesting to me and fascinating is that in this world, I've met people with huge egos, stress, anxiety, and I say, wow, I didn't expect that in this world. And as I started connecting the dots and seeing this happen, I realized, okay, it's because there's other things happening that require us to show up in a way where we can surrender and let go of certain aspects in order to invite these day-to-day habits of nutrition and breathing and posture awareness and so on. So for me, those have been, I would say, two hidden aspects of what people mostly don't consider on a day-to-day stress management, which is, once again, surrendering to life's circumstances. That doesn't mean that you just don't stand up for yourself in situations. What I'm saying is you just adapt. You adapt the best way that you can, and you don't allow the outside to take over you. And, stop with the disempowering stories about yourself. Just the moment you start to catch those disempowering stories, the stories about the aspects of your behavior, the traits of your behavior that are adding negativity into your life, begin to change that story. Begin to say, that's a pattern, that's a conditioning. I can change that. It doesn't have to be my story. Anyway, so those are
Absolutely. That's exactly the point. I think is a great closing point in terms of having a healthy relationship with ourselves. We, especially as women, we're not really good at receiving compliments. We are very quick to negate things and to not kind of sit in and appreciate ourselves. But when it comes to our sleep as well, we don't often have a healthy relationship with it because we buy into things like, if I don't get 8 or 9 hours of sleep per night, then my health is going to be so, there are a number of things that can happen if we sleep less than 6 hours per night. But stressing about how much sleep you're getting is not good as well. I mean, that's where these wearable trackers have created, orthosomnia, where people are obsessed with their stages of sleep and how much sleep that they're getting. If you have a bad night's sleep, everybody has a bad night's sleep. Mar has a bad night's sleep. I have a bad night's sleep. I tell people there's no such thing as perfect sleep. The difference between you and I is when I have a bad night's sleep, I know that it's going to be okay. I can push through, right? But I also know, what can I correct? What choices did I make yesterday? Did I eat too late? Did I do this or that? And I pinpoint what is it or what habit did I engage in that compromised my sleep so I can do better the next day. It's about being forgiving with yourself, about assessing what's going on in your life, right? But also just being kind to yourself. I think that's the thing that we get away from. We're so obsessed with, we need this. It's important to know that sleep is important. It supports our physical, mental, and our emotional health. Should we become obsessed with it, right? No, because that can lead to the opposite end. We just know that we need good sleep. So how can I make better choices today? And just keep it simple, because if you go to the extremes, right, that's where, like, no matter how hard you try, you can't close your eyes and get to sleep. And sleep is a biological need. The harder you try to sleep, the less likely you're going to be to achieve it. So we need to just allow it to flow and just look at the things that we're doing and the choices that we're making, and then sleep will embrace us back.
exactly. You have a great quote from Tony Robbins that reminds you of that quote. What was it about the solutions and the problems?
Oh, it's figure out, what is it? Figure out the problems, but give your energy to the solutions. And that's
That's
the
it.
thing, is to people, identify your problems, but give energy to your solutions. And that's so true. People spend so much time thinking about, oh, well, this could happen, or this is going wrong, or that is going wrong. That's why there's, people who look for the opportunities or the silver lining. And I know it's a lot easier said than done to say that, having the right mindset and being a positive individual. But as humans, we are by nature negative human beings. There are some people that it seems that naturally positivity comes to them, but it takes work for everybody. But the more that you put yourself and you reframe your thoughts, that's what a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy is around, things like insomnia, is reshaping your thoughts about sleep, your thoughts about your habits and your patterns and your behavior. And that's where some people have success, right? Because if we're reframing our thoughts, then we're going to be in a better place to accept sleep habits, put ourselves, create the right types of goals for ourselves, and it puts us in a better place. So I think that's just important to know.
Yes, it is. On that note, we will end here. Please feel free to share your comments, your experiences with us. We read them, and we would love to support you more with addressing anything that you'd like us to discuss and talk about during these monthly live sleep chats. They happen every month, the first Tuesday of every month at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. Please hit the like and subscribe button as well. And if you know anyone that this discussion may benefit, feel free to also send the link along to them. And then if you want to learn more about our certification programs, Soda and I both lead the Integrative Adult Sleep Coach Certification Program at the International Parenting and Health Institute. visit our website, parentinghealthinstitute.com. We provide so much support and education. And it's not only about the science of sleep, which you learn a whole lot, but really putting things into practice. We go above and beyond to ensure that you're integrating, absorbing, retaining, but then understanding how to practically apply everything that you're learning. So you can visit and learn more at parentinghealthinstitute.com. And if you also want to have a great example, Soda is a pioneer of a wonderful business called Start with Sleep in Buffalo, New York. It's an incredible, you want to talk just a little bit about it, just share with people. I love her, what she pioneered and what she's doing. Just talk just a little bit about your center and what's happening there.
Well, I started it as a community resource for sleep health education. So really just to start meaningful conversations around sleep. Most people don't understand the importance, but they don't understand how to achieve it, right? So what are all of the things around us? So we host a number of workshops where you understand air quality, but we do like plants, right? Best plants for sleep. So meeting people where they're at. I just recently did an event with Yelp where we made a beauty eye cream. So I talk about beauty sleep, and the growth hormone is secreted while we sleep at a faster rate, our collagen production, but then we made, like a make and take natural product remedy that alleviates dark circles underneath your eyes, and just helping people understand how do they make the choices that are going to improve the quality of their sleep and, the level of their energy as well.
Thank you, Soda. So visit her website, startwithsleep.com, to learn more. It's pretty incredible what she's doing. And I've always, since the beginning, said, Soda, this is phenomenal. I want to see these all over the world. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to our next monthly live sleep chat in the month of May. Thank you.